12 times a year, the first Thursday of most months, but in January, in September, and in July. I skipped over that one, but it's July, September, and January. We meet the second of our month on a Thursday at 3 o'clock. We are here to talk about a great list of interesting topics, all related to free open source software. And that's the intro for the month. I'll share my screen so you can see what we have for an agenda. It is also available at NatickFOSS.org. That is our website, and it is a successfully up website, easy to reach as long as your DNS is working. So, share a screen, a window, Firefox, and here we are. If you have a cell phone and are interested in using the QR codes with it, you can save yourself from having to type the archive page address by clicking a photo in a new cell phone, which will offer you the option of going to the site address that is represented in this QR code. All right. I know that none of the people on screen are new to this group, so I think we'll pass on the introductory slide talk, but it is available online and you can use it in any version of LibreOffice. It is a LibreOffice slideshow. So install LibreOffice on your computer and click away to see that if you are interested. Otherwise, we have several items of FOSS news. Fedora, one of the distributions of Linux, has reached its 43rd release as of October 28th. And typically, Jerry is the person who speaks about what he has heard and in some cases what he has used for a couple of weeks. This time he's not with us today, so I suggest you follow this link and learn more about what Fedora 43 is all about. But we also have a not competitive so much as parallel track using the LMDE, which is Linux Mint, the specific Debian edition, which is a slightly different structure from the Fedora process of putting together a Linux desktop. And we have two people who are ready to talk about what LMDE 7, which was released on the 14th of October, is all about. Would you, Bob, or Jill and Dick care to be first? I give you the chance to raise your hand first.
I would like for Jill and Dick to give an outline of what's going on, because they probably have more organized knowledge of that than I do. Then I can give my experience with it, because LMDE is my daily driver operating system. And
will you want to have screen sharing when you do your part, Bob?
Only if people want to see stuff that I'm talking about, and they can chime in.
Okay. So are you ready, Dick and Jill?
Yes.
Should I unshare?
No.
No.
Are you going to want to show anything? This computer we're using for the Zoom for the Jitsi meeting is does not have the LMDE on it. So
why don't I just start with a description? Linux Mint comes in various flavors, and some of them have to do with the display approach, and some of them have to do with other items. LMD was often left field as a separate project, and I believe it existed before Linux Mint did. They picked it up and applied it to Linux Mint, but the name is one that's more recent. Linux Mint is built upon Ubuntu Linux. Ubuntu Linux is built upon Debian Linux. Debian Linux is, I believe, constructed from the source code, the generic stuff, and bent into the shape that all of those are quite similar to a user. LMGE Debian Edition is an attempt to lose the Ubuntu code. That's part of what it is. And the theory is not that they don't like Ubuntu. The theory is we like Ubuntu and we're keeping Linux Mint as Ubuntu partially based, except for LMDE. But very few major Linux versions rely on more than one set of source code and debugs and things of that sort. And having the layer of Debian and the layer of Ubuntu exposes it to extra theoretical risk. If Ubuntu goes down, and I think we'll have an item on that coming up later today, it's an unnecessary risk for Linux Mint if it can do everything it does so well in LMDE. They think they've just about gotten there. And I thought it was time for me to look at it. And I can assure you I'm an expert on the subject. I've had over 2 hours of running time with it. We installed it late yesterday, and we installed some apps to go with it late yesterday. We did a full install. We didn't do it by way of updates. And I think so far we're glad we did, but we're not quite done yet. I will pose a question now. Maybe Dennis will hit it on his turn. The one gap I'm trying to fill
Dennis
right
or
now.
Bob?
What?
Dennis or Bob?
I'm sorry, Bob. Maybe Bob will fill in on this one. And that is, I used to have a very nice software system load indicator down on the center part of my bottom bar. And it came from Ubuntu. I went into the Linux Mint repository and the LMDE portion of it to see where I get it. And I haven't got it yet. I found a lot of threads leading to Ubuntu. And from what I just told you, I think those are ones I don't want to install. It is totally missing and unmentioned in the discussions I've seen so far and in the downloadable software manager choices. So
And Synaptic Package Manager.
it looks like a few things aren't obvious on our attempt to bring all of my favorite tools across. I'll ask now, Bob, have you been able to install the system load indicator?
Okay, I do not use system load indicator. I have other things which I do use. I have a tool called gcrelm, and maybe I should share my desktop to show that.
Yeah.
I'll unshare then.
Because gcrelm, except for requiring GNOME, is a really neat little indicator, and you can add much more than I've got on it. So let me see if I can share my entire screen and this screen. And we are now seeing on the right-hand side of my screen all the CPU threads. and we're seeing disks, and I could choose all kinds of other things to monitor. And each one of these little items, each one of these little windows is called a CREL.
Bob,
Yeah,
we have a comment on our screen that says that it has been turned off because of bandwidth problems. So we never saw your screen.
We didn't.
No,
can everyone else see?
Well, I think we're seeing it.
no, we aren't.
What's this and this?
Oh.
Are you seeing it now?
Yes, sorry.
Wrong
Might have
computer.
more.
Wrong
Right.
computer.
on Marblehead.
Okay, but anyway, so you can see processes, disk, internet, which happens to be a dongle right now. I have more to say about that later. And there are various other things. There are things about memory, and you can show all kinds of different things. I don't know whether it will show the CPU temperature. It's been a while since I've looked into all the things that gCrellum can show, but it can show a lot of things. gCrellum, let me put into the chat just what it is. And let me also get a reference for it. gCrellum. And that will be, I'll get the URL for it. Here it is.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll copy the URL and I'll put into chat gCrellum, and that's where you get it. It's in chat. And the main thing is that there are several different themes. You don't have to have it looking like this. This one has lots of pipes and everything, but pipes have a dual meaning, of course, to anybody who does Linux. So I think that's nice. But anyway, there are a lot of different things you can show, and maybe, yeah, I can get configuration up here. And it has some built-ins, which I can expand. There are sensors. There is a temperature sensor. And it can do all these, each core, it can tell the temperature. Each physical core, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 are the physical cores in here. And it can tell the temperature of my SSD. It can tell several thermal zones within my NUC, which is a mini PC. So it's got a lot of different ones like that. It can do internet, various ports and whatnot. Net, which would have all the different. This is the one that I'm using right now, which happens to be a USB dongle, and it shows memory, swap pages, things about the file system. But anyway, there's all this sort of all this cool sort of stuff. But if you pile too much onto it, it gets to be too much for one column. And you can allow multiple instances so that you have one column here and then another column and another column to your heart's content.
Rob,
really technical predilections.
I have a quick
I
question
guess not.
Yes.
on the chat. Is there a way to save the whole chat rather than just one?
I just copy and paste. I just copy and paste into a document.
What I do, Jill, is to click into the last of them and then do Control A, and it takes everything up. You know, click into the text of the last message.
Yeah.
And then do Control A to choose all before you copy. That will take the whole chat.
Great, thanks. Dick had a comment too.
Yes, Bob, excellent, far better than system load indicator, except for one thing.
Yeah.
Observe the big long white line down by the bottom and observe the short white line just above it. In about the size of the short white line, in the center where you have empty on the line under it, I can put in system load indicator, have it sit on that line full time without taking up significant space.
Yeah.
And I can just bump the bottom of the screen to bring it up if it isn't up.
You're correct, Dick. You're correct, Dick. It's much more compact.
I
Much-
want something that small and that persistent on all the time. And take a look at the two. You'll see it's either system load monitor or system load indicator in various places. And the catch is I haven't found one that's Ubuntu free, but I just started looking in Debian's own offerings. I can't give an answer yet, but I'll follow up with one later. But I really dearly want a little tiny one that's persistent right there in the bottom bar. Okay?
Yeah, there is in LMDE something they
This
call,
is just great for detailed work.
they have something called System Monitor, which is built in, but I don't think that's what you want.
No, that's the same as the other Linux, the earlier Linux Mint that we had. It's useful for some things, but it takes a whole window.
How about System Load Indicator, which is an applet?
Applet?
Yeah,
Did you-
it's one of these little desktop applets that Mint has and LMDE.
I did not find that clue. Where?
You're not going to like this, but I used AI to find it. But it's called System Load Indicator. It's an applet. And
It sounds exactly like what we're talking about. I did not find the link from LMDE.
let me see whether or not I can call up applets here on my desktop.
Mhm.
Here's applets. And we are looking for System Load.
Nope.
And I do not see it.
Uh-huh.
Just a minute.
Thank you for
I
clarifying.
was in the wrong window. I was in the wrong window.
Right. The
Wait a
regular
minute, he
Linux
said it.
Mint has it. That's not an issue.
Wait a
All
minute.
right.
He's going to check this other window.
Multi-core system monitor. System
Possibly.
monitor, which is what you don't want.
Right.
I tried a lot of them.
Yeah. It isn't showing that one yet.
Well, time to tell the developers that
Oh.
there are people who would
Yeah.
like it.
It's somewhere in here, but it would
Yeah.
take time to find it.
Well, I claim I've done a hard look through the ones through LMDE,
Yeah.
and they don't mention it. So I'll
Okay.
carry this on afterward in a follow-up.
Just one more thing. See if there
That's pretty early April.
system load indicator for Mint. We know there's one for Mint.
But
Right.
that's the one that's based with Ubuntu code.
Right. And
Yes.
that mention is from 2016. So
Okay. So we can keep looking. But
Okay,
apparently there may be such a thing.
Bob, let me complete my part by just saying we've got everything else I normally use up and running smoothly
Mhm.
and looking a little better than before and running a little faster than before. So I want to give the positive side. This is the last little touch I'm waiting to add. We're that close. And that's my report on it. Now for you, Bob.
Yeah. The other thing I want to mention is Wi-Fi. Two things: graphics and Wi-Fi. LMDE 6 had a dependency missing and could not run the latest Photox 25 point anything. LMDE 7 does run Photox 25.4, so it has an updated GTK. The other thing is Wi-Fi 6 and 6E. Like many Linux distros, it will do 5 gigahertz, but it does not do 6 gigahertz. So it will do do WPA3 security, and it will do Wi-Fi 6 in the 5 gigahertz band. It has therefore the SAE encryption, but it is not doing 6E and it won't do Wi-Fi 7. I got 3 different sets of dongles that I tried, and none of them could do that, so it's not a driver issue.
I believe I picked up a discussion and solution on that. On the chance that I'm right, I'll send that along too.
Yes, please. So I'll stop sharing because that's the main thing. The other thing is the upgrade worked very well on most of my devices. Just one of them got really badly stuck, and I had to go through. I basically went into a live session and went through a lot of hacking to get the upgrade to resume. And finally, I was able to get into the system that was upgrading, and I did not have to do a clean install. So it finally worked, and it had then 67 things to remove, which is not unusual for an upgrade. And this is the LMDE I'm using now, so it seems to be working. LMDE 7, Gigi, Cinnamon 6.4. something to answer Ed's question. Okay, I stopped sharing.
I'll go back to sharing. Thank you very much to all of you who made comments and gave us good information that we will eventually come to know and love. Our next newses are a little less involved. This first one tells about the International Criminal Court making the decision to leave Microsoft Office and replace it with the open source, the FOSS Open Desk software, which is developed in Germany instead of in the United States. And their reason behind it is less software question and more a political question concerning sanction levels that have been imposed on different groups from other countries, not the United States where we locate, but sanctions placed on the use of software from the US make the International Criminal Court want to have something that they can rely on that isn't based in the US. Does anybody know if OpenDesk is different from the LibreOffice? I did not find out as I was looking at that.
It's a different company, a different product. It's based in Germany.
So it's just another open software suite of products.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it would appear so.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, this next item is the ecology, or for want of a better term, the environment of open source software. The open source economy is the goal of the term ecology in this. They are looking for alternate ways to develop a recognition of the importance of open source software for a non-locked down future. The more open source kinds of activity that can be promoted and used on a worldwide basis, the less dependence there is on any one successful product of any category. And I think that they're looking here at what steps can be taken by individuals and groups. And if you're interested, there are subscriptions to find out more on a regular basis. But there are lots of interesting things going on there, it seems. Dick and Jill?
Yeah, I have a comment on the presentation, their presentation. Considering that the US is one of the very few countries still not using metric system, it's interesting that everything they have in there is non-metric.
I guess there are.
That might be because we selected English.
Yeah.
That might be.
But still, I mean, England doesn't use it, and South Africa and Australia and whatever.
In any event, the concept is good, and we'll have to see if more and more people get interested in open source and free software and free economy builder options with the changes in political structure from one decade to the next, making that a complex issue. I don't have answers. I'm just trying to give available information. And a hand up from, who is that? There
Hello,
you go.
I am new to this group, but I was a little bit late, so I missed the newcomer section.
Yes, we did skip right over it.
Yeah, I didn't come at 2:45. I arrived at 3:03, I think.
We start early for technical help, but
Okay.
at 3:00 we did get started just after that, and unfortunately you weren't here at that time.
Yeah.
Let me backtrack just a bit to greet you.
Mhm.
My computer screen is not showing your name. Can you
Ali?
pronounce it? Ali?
Yeah.
Very pleased to have you with us, Ali. Free open source software is our main topic. We are physically located in several places, but most of us are from Eastern Massachusetts in the United States. And we used to meet on a monthly basis live at the Natick Library in Eastern Massachusetts, USA. But because of COVID, we have gone to meeting here online and have done pretty well with it. I'm glad you got the chance to see that we exist. How did you come across us?
Well, I live in Natick. I live like pretty close to the library.
Aha.
And actually I came across this because I was hosting like a kind of like an install-a-thon on like old devices in Cambridge about 2 weeks ago. So I was like recruiting volunteers from like different places, and then I checked, because I live in Natick, so I was like, I wonder if there's a Linux group around me, and then I found this, and I was like, I have to join this. But yeah, I was putting my hand up because I wanted to say something about this because I found it really, really intriguing. Because I'm also doing like a fellowship with the open source hardware. I think it's called OSHWA. They do open source hardware. So I think that the open source ecology people they were like trying to develop buildings where it's like the designs are open to everyone and it's modular so that you basically can design your own. And I thought that was pretty spot on. And yeah, that's all I wanted to say. And I wanted to introduce myself. My name is Ali. I live in Natick, and I'm glad to be here.
Great. Sounds like you have something of a background in open source. Are you a Linux user or just interested in free open software on Windows or Mac?
Yes, I am a Linux user. I use Ubuntu,
Mm-hmm.
and also I'm involved with the Free Software Foundation. They usually have events, so yeah.
Oh, good.
I'm kind of new. I've only been using Ubuntu for actually it's almost a year now, but less than a year. Let's say like about 8 months. Yeah.
It gets better as you go. The more you know, the more you're going to like it.
Yeah.
And if it turns out that Ubuntu is not exactly what you want going forward, you're going to find that people in this group have spread to other kinds of installations, Fedora and Linux Mint, two of the big names that are out there. Jill?
Yeah, I'm sure Jerry Feldman, who couldn't be here today, would be very interested in the InstallFest stuff because I think
We do that too.
well, we have done it. Boston Linux Unix group has been hosting InstallFest for years, and they've been having trouble finding a location. So you and he should get together definitely.
Yes, that would be awesome.
Have you joined our user group lists yet?
Yes, I joined the one. I'm on one list. I got like the update for this meeting, I think
The
about a week
announced
ago.
list?
Yeah, the announcements. Yeah.
Oh,
That's
good, good. I think I remember seeing your email, as a matter of fact. I'm the guy that is in charge of that list. So thank you for applying. The more active list is the discuss list, which is
okay.
described a little further down on the homepage.
All right.
And we would recommend joining that list for more timely interaction between meetings. Jerry's on that, as are all the people that you see here on the screen. So with that taken, ask any questions that come up during the meeting. No question that's the proper protocol. Most people do a hand raise on the Jitsi Meet. You'll see that down in the controls in the center. If you click that hand icon, it will raise your hand for letting me know that you want to speak. Otherwise, we generally do ask that microphones are off to prevent feedback issues, which sometimes come up. Okay?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Dick?
I was saying hi to our new member.
No, but Bill Ricker just put a notice about the next BLU InstallFest in the chat.
There it is. I see it. Okay, back to my shared screen if we are ready. Debian apt, which is the installer processing tool for all the individual package pieces that go into making a distribution really work. Dick was mentioning that he is missing a particular tool, and apt is the tool that does the installation of the other tools. Anyway, apt is formerly built around, I believe, the C language, and it is being pushed forward to using Rust as a replacement of C for code that has been ported into the Debian archives, the list of software that's available. If you're going to port something into the distribution's list of available software, you're going to have to be using Rust to make that port, but that will not happen any sooner than 2026. Now, as far as this group's concerned, I don't think there's anybody that's actually involved in porting software for the Debian repositories, but it's interesting to see that the effort is being made to tighten down on security of software that was not originally written for that Linux Debian repository. For example, if it came originally from the BSD world, maybe it would be a ported code, and they want that work to be done in Rust to increase the security and reduce the fear of bad actors taking over with poorly written software ports. A hand went up. Let me just quickly check. And it's Bill Ricker. Hello, Bill.
Yeah, the Rust issue is particularly important for system components that normally run as super user, such as apt. Rust is a more modern but slower equivalent to C, C++, which is memory safe in terms of a lot of your typical C bugs that are exploited are defended against in Rust. It doesn't defend against logic errors of sorts other than bad memory, bad pointers, and buffer overruns, but it protects against those, and as such, it runs more slowly, and also since it's new, its optimizer isn't got 30, 40 years of optimizations in the optimizer. But so the payback for porting to Rust is in things like apt and other package managers, and utilities that when a user that has privilege to do a sudo runs it, it runs as administrator instead of as them, which is the privilege escalation route. Pushing to have all the utilities ported to Rust has been considered to be a not such a good idea, and in fact, somebody pushed an update that replaced a utility in one distro with a Rust version that didn't implement all the options because they thought, well, nobody uses that one, and it broke some system management scripts that relied on that option. And so, in general, the larger Linux, BSD, et cetera, communities are backing off from saying, let's Rustify everything, and leaning towards, okay, the things which are most likely to be misused as attack vectors because it's really old, bad C code that gets run as the super user, we should Rustify those first. I hope that's what this apt requirement is, that apt itself will be requiring the Rust infrastructure next spring, late spring. That would be reasonable. And that would be on the new Debian release then. But I'm going to have to read that one myself to understand it.
And some of us, as user level people, read that and say, okay, because it's over our non-technical heads. So don't, I'm not speaking now to Bill, who is a technical head. Those of us in this group vary from early adopters to, oh yeah, I like Linux. It's a broad range of levels, and we try to keep it that way. so that we can learn from expertise and we can discuss things in ways that new users will be able to understand as well. Thank you, Bill. Okay, back to my screen here. So these links are live, by the way, on the website version. This is my local copy. It's a little cleaner to look at than the one online, but the one online is the same list of links. So feel free to take time now or anytime in the future, because this is an archive page for each of our monthly meetings. You can go back to it 2 months, 10 weeks, anytime later. And this is something more about Python and politics. Recent political issues have meant that diversity in software development has been a threatened situation. Anybody who is applying for National Science Foundation grants or any other financial support from the US government has been told that it's probably important that they restrict discussions of diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's the DEI. If you don't downgrade diversity and downgrade engagement and downgrade inclusion, then you might not get your money. So Python Foundation said, okay, we'll give our we'll give our proposal no more effort. We're withdrawing our request for $1.5 million, which obviously is sad for Python, which was doing the grant to improve its security in software use. And that is for purely political reasons, and that's sad. Theoretically, software and this community are immune from politics, but it would appear that that's not exactly the situation. Bill, again.
On the other hand, the reality is that they're cutting funding for just about everything anyway. So the odds of they're getting the $1.5 million, if it hadn't been for specifically security, was low. And there are other entities that like security that are also DEI positive. So let's hope they can find alternative funding. But software is not politically neutral. Politically neutral is a way of saying I'm happy with the status quo, and thus is neutrality is inherently anti-progressive. And open source software is at best accepting of pleasant capitalism, but is generally slightly anti-capitalist, slightly anarchist, to full-on anarcho-socialist. So it's keep politics out of my software is just ridiculous.
Ridiculous and sad, perhaps, at the same time, because we need to live in the environment we're in, and we like to think that we can get support from a like-minded community. So we'll do our best to carry on here. Dick, Jill, you had your hand up?
Yes. A little follow through and comparison to the Linux Mint Debian edition discussion. I'm going to add a third one, and that is there's been a running gun battle going on for a few months between Apple and Microsoft. And it has quite a bit to do with the Trump administration and what we're just talking about now. Very often, the place that appears to be the bad guy is the good guy. It's a little hard to tell because the bad guys are very quick to look for arguments in the other direction to justify where they want things to go. Microsoft wants to help the Trump administration reduce your security and privacy for its benefit. That's called national security. So it's hard to tell which is which. And Apple has said, no, we don't want you to tell us to put holes in the various places you recommend and not tell our users. Well, there's good arguments on both sides. But if you're just buying software for your purposes, you don't need other people attached, guaranteed, with no discussion available. Apple didn't want to get tied into one of those agreements, and maybe this one has some strings like that. I don't know. But I was tied into one of those agreements for decades. I know that you don't want to go there if you don't have to.
Okay. Politics will be with us throughout, and we'll deal with it as we can. Speaking of Microsoft, we skip over FOSS history because nobody put anything into the agenda. So we don't mention things that aren't there. Hot software. For those looking for Microsoft alternatives, there are lots of options, but what was nice was the availability of this chart that came to me through a link on Mastodon, a social network that does not have corporate connections and is federated, meaning it's spread out. This is a German post, and it comes from Swiss, or excuse me, this is maybe it's German language, but this is from the Swiss social server, an instance or location you can join that isn't located in the United States if that's your goal. And it is possible to spread connections across the world using Mastodon, using the federated world. In any case, the point of this link was to show this chart, which you can download if you wish, and I presume use in many different places. This shows all sorts of different things that replace Office, such as LibreOffice and Calligra Suite and OnlyOffice, or that replace the Visio chart making tool, diagrams.net, pencil, and DIA diagrams, and so forth. If you're an Outlook user, you can use Thunderbird, as several of us here at this group do, Evolution, Geary, Firefox as a browser instead of Microsoft Edge, and so on. So if you're interested in this and want to look at it more, feel free. The link's in the archive. Something we have occasional contact with is retro gaming. And this link talks about an alpha release, which means it's very early in its development stages. So don't put it on your major computer system hoping that it will do everything you want it to. But if you want to track the development, it's kind of nice to get in on an alpha so that you can make contributions. That's one of the nice things about open source activity. real users often give feedback to the developers, and things develop more quickly and with more options along the way. This particular one is about emulating older arcade games, and this one might be of particular interest to Dennis, who has been a proponent of remakes of older software and has some experience with that. Did you get a chance, Dennis, to look at this one?
No, I have not.
That's fine then. We'll let you take as much time as you need. You're our expert on retro gaming. All right. Android Auto and Apple CarPlay are ways that my Android phone can connect to the electronics in my car and let me get information about the car and its operation. I can look up the tire pressure on my phone, for example. Apple is author of a similar tool called Apple CarPlay, but GM has decided that they're going to develop their own, and that Apple CarPlay and Android Auto will be removed. I'm interested only because I do use my Android Auto to broadcast navigation maps on my car screen instead of having to look at the small phone screen. And I hope I don't lose that kind of capability as this process moves forward. Anybody else use either Android Auto or Apple CarPlay?
I haven't started because I only just upgraded vehicles to a 2019. Is this going to be only new models of GM cars, or are they going to mess with people with older GMs?
I do not know. I did not read the detail of that article myself to that level, but I would be surprised if they removed it from all just because it is a tool that is currently in use. Starting.
Live streaming is on.
And there we are again. Welcome back to those who thought we'd left forever.
Yep.
Everybody can read the article, obviously, and as people dig in further, we'll know more. A lot of these come and are worth putting into the archive here so that we don't forget about them, even if we don't have the chance in a particular month to read them first thing. Now, this next one is potentially a bigger deal for new hardware. UEFI is a standard boot processor of all modern PC-style computers. That's the ones that have Windows and expect to have Linux reloaded on top of them. UEFI replaced BIOS, basic input-output system, and it has been a political issue for China to be able to get access to that technology at low enough level to be able to build their own computers. A couple of months ago, we talked about a computer that has been a computer operating system that has been developed by China, specifically the Huawei organization, manufacturing group in China, have developed their own operating system that's not Windows, that's not Apple iOS, that's not Linux, it's their own. And they have now gone one step further to create a BIOS substitute that replaces the UEFI standard. China, being the huge technology country that it is, will no longer require the purchase of US technology. If this combination of tools works for them, it may also become a way for other countries to not be beholden to the capitalism of the United States, meaning maybe not so good things for our large tech industry. That remains to be seen whether that is a future of significance, but the Chinese have come up with this new standard as a step that might produce that future. I thought you should have the chance to read about it and have a chance to think about it, as well as come back to us with your future knowledge about it. Okay. Some people install all their software from the distribution that they install Linux from. If you do Fedora, you are using the RPM installer. If you do Debian or Ubuntu or KDE, perhaps you are using the apt tools. But there are alternatives. Ubuntu is pushing, for example, for Snap. There are other Flatpak and app images available for different kinds of software that handle some of it more efficiently and or more effectively for not having to worry about driver and dependency issues. If you have app images in your system, this is a tool that will allow you to manage those app images more effectively. One of the things that you see as well on this is this ads label. Anytime we put an article up on our archive, we're particularly aware of the number of pop-ups and interruptions that a site might give us. So we like to warn our users that there may be some ads that you find objectionable. So don't bother to go to this link if you think you're not going to enjoy the experience. That's the point of that particular little image. We sometimes mess up and miss on an article. So if you find one that we've messed up, we apologize. Now, Hyper 8 is new software designed to provide a very easy video site creation. I don't know much about making video sites. I do most of my stuff with standard HTML coding. Video is not one of my skills, but if you are a video person and you want to put up your work and you don't want to put it on YouTube, which is where we have our meeting archive, you want to have your own site of videos that you have put up, maybe you want to look into Hyper 8 for its ability to generate a complete site and handle all the underlying stuff. It is a FOSS item. It is web-based, and that means it's the Affero general public license. Anything that is on a particular user's computer is typically free software license, like the GPL. But if it's on the web and designed for use only that way, we give a license that is appropriate to that use case. Similarly, if you're a TikTok person, you know that tool is being sold from its Chinese origins to a US company, and there's political stuff going on behind the scenes to find TikTok as a maybe good citizen of the US. We don't know what's going to happen there yet. If you want an alternative, you might want to look into Loops, which is a streaming tool with connections to Mastodon and the Fediverse. And a hand is up from Bill Ricker.
Now, last I heard, I think TikTok is moving to the Oracle umbrella, which means we don't have to worry about Chinese state surveillance, but Oracle is where software goes to die. MySQL, for instance, and a bunch of Berkeley things like Sun. So, they sponsor America's Cup yachts, but they're not so good on free software. So, from a NatSec point of view, Oracle means that we'll be spying on you instead of China on your TikTok, but it's not something for us to be thrilled about. So Loops, PeerTube, Hyper8, I guess Hyper8 is static, so it's not a active pub Fediverse thing the way Loops and PeerTube are.
Thank you for that good insight and connection of new tools. Those of us who are not video people need help with understanding these things, and it's nice to have people with that experience. Now, hot hardware is up next. Hot hardware is hot because it tells us something we didn't expect hardware to be able to do. We don't want hot computers. That's why they get cooling, and we'll talk more about the cooling costs of computers in a few minutes. But briefly, we have new kinds of batteries that comes from MIT, talking about concrete batteries that are now being developed that are made using components mixed with concrete, allowing a building to become supercapacitors, which are energy storage typically found at much smaller densities. But if you can make a building that is full of these capacitors, they can effectively act as a battery rather than just a short-term internal component storage in a computer or a radio or any other electronic device. Typical small capacitors are energy storage components, but they store a small amount of energy and generally just for a brief period. Some people who have TV backgrounds, knowing how to work with a television repair, recognize that there were fairly large capacitors inside the televisions to store the energy necessary to make a cathode ray tube jump the distance from the back of the tube all the way to the front of the screen. And those were very dangerous because they could store high voltage and didn't bleed out quick enough. So if you were going to open an old TV, you had to make sure that you discharged the capacitors before you started work on them. And if this comes to fruition, it will be an interesting thing to see how they insulate these from contact with bulldozer and crane operators so that they don't shock themselves to death. But It'd be neat if they can store electricity in concrete, not just in little lithium battery cells and sodium battery cells. Okay, where am I? I'm bouncing to the wrong places here. All right. We have hot internet in the form of some new software or updated software that Dick Miller currently uses. So, Dick, do you have details to tell us about the new SeaMonkey version?
Yes. First, I think most people don't know about the old SeaMonkey version. LibreOffice is a FOSS set of basically all the tools you need to run a typical office, author a book, make a web page, tools for everything. And Microsoft Office blazed the way for that, I think. But a long time ago, Mozilla decided it would write one that wasn't Microsoft's, free open source, and became SeaMonkey. And I've been using SeaMonkey almost since I got to writing anything significant on computers as my preferred tool for creating a web page or updating, managing a web page. I do a bunch of that. I wanted something that was WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get, not something where I was working in code. And I wanted it to be fairly flexible and easy and quick and free. And one piece of SeaMonkey is SeaMonkey Composer, which I found just perfect for that. For so long, I'm not sure what it competes with anymore. But it's had a major update, very nice. And it's built from that old Mozilla attempt to start it, which worked and which evolved into the current one. But you go look for SeaMonkey, not Mozilla, if you want to find it now. I recommend it highly. And this hot off the press version has added a few nice new tools, particularly for the components I don't use. I have other tools for those, but it blends well with all the other programs I've used. If you're looking for something for easy web page touch-ups and the like, I recommend looking at SeaMonkey Composer.
All right, thank you, Dick.
And the new one is running well in LMDE Linux Mint.
Excellent. All right. The Wayback Machine is a part of the Internet Archive, and it stores, among the Internet Archive, stores a lot of different things, music and books and pamphlets and movies and you name it. If it's possible to archive it, the Internet Archive is doing the work. But it also has this component called the Wayback Machine, which currently has passed the trillion web page mark. I don't know just how many of you have looked at all trillion of those in the Wayback Machine, but it's kind of an interesting place to visit. If you look up Wayback Machine and you have your own website, you can go back and see what it looked like 2 years ago, 10 years ago, maybe even 20 years ago. Another hand, and it is Bill.
Yeah, the Wayback Machine is useful for both. Like Wikipedia uses it a lot to make safe URLs to ephemeral information that they want to use as footnotes, but it's also usable to recover a damaged website that you didn't have adequate backups of. You can pull down what it used to look like. We should probably make sure they're backing up our archive,
Mm-hmm.
so that if we lose hosting, there's a forever copy.
I'll check that out.
There is a danger, however, that if one loses or surrenders, stops paying for domain name renewal, domain registration, a scammer or a hoarder can buy the domain name cheap and then, pretending to be the owner of the old content, demand that it be taken down to increase the urgency for somebody to buy it from them, so that the content can be put back up at Internet Archive. So y'all be careful out there.
As always, let the buyer beware. And in the case of a domain name, let the renter beware. All right. The internet and DNS run on free open source software. This is from the ICANN, which is the organization nominally responsible for the domain name system, which is how a computer is located on the internet using a name rather than just a series of numbers. The domain numbering is not complex, it's just way more difficult to remember. So if you want to go to NatickFOSS.org, you don't have to know what the domain number is. You just say NatickFOSS.org and you go there. That's what ICANN is responsible for overseeing. Their work is done using hardware, but also all the software that they do is free open source software, so no one organization can lock it down. The ICANN is the responsible central group, but all of the internet was built with the theory that if one section went down, another section would take over and nothing would be lost. So that one domain name server does not control the whole system. There are several high-end servers which act as the hub, but if one of those goes down, you automatically get switched to the next, and then to the next, and then to the next. And it takes some pretty big failures of electrical systems to knock out a big enough block to cause problems. I hear a hand up from, again, Bill.
Yeah, the roots, there were, if I remember correctly, 7 root servers, which are located on multiple continents, operated by different affiliates of ICANN, and the credentials to update them are on a electronic equivalent of a strategic air command multiple key, or a electrical worker multiple tagout safety, so that it takes 2 or 3 authorized persons to agree to update the root. And there's a large enough set that you can get 2 or 3 people to do it. And so it's very well designed to be survivable of undersea cable cuts, national government stupidities, blocking the net, etc. So the survivability of the route is planned.
And we are glad it was designed that way, thanks to all the real engineer level minds out there who thought about the problems that might exist and began the process of building the tools that would overcome the problems. It's a truly distributed system, and that's the way we think things run best, when not one failure point brings the whole thing down. That's what free open source software is about, as far as users of tools that run on computers. Nobody controls free open source software at the level that prevents somebody else from keeping ahead, keeping a concept moving. This is good news all around. And Ashley Bellinger said that YouTubers suspect that artificial intelligence is bizarrely removing popular video explainers. YouTube denies that artificial intelligence was involved. I think, Ed, you brought this to our attention. Is that correct? Dick?
I recall adding one article. I don't recall which one it was though.
Okay. In any event, artificial intelligence is something we're going to get to in a couple of minutes for several different things. Dick?
Yeah, I submitted it.
Thank you.
The quick comment, this is interesting. YouTube denies AI was involved. That's kind of the other hand of a real statement. Who was involved? And since they aren't giving any other excuse, I'm not ruling out AI being involved, but it could also be something else, like one of those government requirements, and you're not allowed to talk about it. I thought it was an interesting one. It fits in forward and backward in today's discussion.
John?
Yeah.
I got kicked. I hope I'm back.
Yep, you're fine.
I'm not sure I'm sharing a screen. You have a comment?
Yeah, I wanted to say, in another user group, one of the leaders also is aware of this story because he uses these videos heavily in the meetings. And he is of the opinion that it is, in fact, AI enforcing the Google community standards for YouTube, and that somehow things have gotten messed up to the point where the filtering has gotten stricter. Whether or not that's actually what's going on, I don't know. But there are a lot of content creators who are now considering moving to other platforms because they can't afford 3 strikes, because 3 strikes and you can't contribute anything more to YouTube. And each takedown notice is a strike.
All right. Not a good situation.
Okay,
I think Bill Ricker was next.
Yeah. I'm not currently seeing your shared screen anymore. It didn't disappear for me until after you got back, but then it eventually cleaned it up.
Yeah, I have to do a new screen share.
Yep.
My old connection died.
And my raised hand was for the bug item that follows.
Okay.
Here we go.
All right.
Coming up.
I hope we're back.
Yep.
So, any more comments on the YouTube situation?
I'll just say that it can be hard to distinguish artificial ignorance from anthropogenic ignorance, and pattern matching systems used to be called AI, but now AI is only being used for large language model plagiarism systems, so that YouTube might say it's not AI and the researcher says it is AI, and they might both be right with different definitions.
Mm-hmm. Dick and Jill?
We used to call it routine gross mismanagement.
And I've been involved in several different conversations lately about what AI can and cannot do. And the big argument seemed to be over whether AI can think. Knowledge versus wisdom. And I think the answer is it most certainly can. Most of it isn't doing that yet. And I talked to some of the pioneers in the AI research group. And they were originally at MIT, but they're scattered around. A lot of them are back around Boston. So I get to talk about esoteric things like that. It's a very important question because AI already owns a lot of things we think we own. Take our national power supply. Take our ability to get a preference on that power supply when it's limited, et cetera, et cetera. More and more, AI is going to be able to make those decisions, and much bigger ones as well. How do we know we should trust it? How do we know we used to trust it, but it learned a new trick? How do we know most of it's honest, but this part is not? Whole new ball game.
All right. Ubuntu 25.10. Oh, the topic changed here from hot internet to computer security. Unattended upgrades were broken due to a Rust software rewrite of the core utilities.
Yeah, that was the event I was referring to earlier.
Yep. And Ed provided this one for us to see. Do you have particular comment to make on it, Ed?
No, I do not. I figured we had a number of people using Ubuntu, so I figure I'd add that and contribute it.
Thank you very much. And unattended upgrades are the ones that are supposed to happen for security on mostly servers, if I understand correctly, to allow things to get corrected quickly. And the old version of those upgrades, or of the software that handled those upgrades, was rewritten recently for Ubuntu using Rust. Apparently, they missed some of the key moments, some of the key pieces, which I'm sure has been quickly remedied, but I don't know.
It wasn't that the unattended upgrade system was updated. It was one of the basic GNU utilities that emulates and then extends an old Unix utility, was converted to Rust on the theory that the core utilities are used by so many super user scripts, we should protect them all. And they didn't implement all of the BSD and GNU extended arguments because like people can disagree as to which ones were the right way to do it. And so it wasn't 100% backward compatible with the C implementation in Ubuntu. And that particular oddball flag was used by the unattended upgrade. By the way, unattended upgrade could be selected by a user who leaves their desktop in sleep mode overnight to do upgrades as opposed to just downloads of upgrades in the wee hours of the morning when they're asleep, which can leave you with a system that demands to be rebooted when you get your coffee in the morning. So it could affect normal users, not just servers.
It hasn't happened to me yet, and I'm hoping that it won't. I don't run the 2510 right now. I'm one of the people as a user level who runs the long-term support. I actually run the Kubuntu version, so it will be another 6 months for me before I have to worry about these issues as I get into the next long-term support.
And this particular one has been fixed, but we need to have very strong backward compatibility testing for these Rust replacements, and a simple failback during the transition period so that you can switch back to the C version if there's a problem. And this disaster demonstrated that, you know, it's not all roses. We have to take a belt and suspenders approach to this, and most of the community is being a little more grown up about it.
That's good. Okay, officially we reached the artificial intelligence and large language model section of our agenda. It's a huge section this month. Maybe we'll get through all of it, maybe we won't. So I just want to lighten the load before we get to this heavy lifting and drop down to the game of the month. And I would recommend it. It is a crossword puzzle game that if you click on it, you get the chance to see how this recent online game works. Your idea is to take segments of a puzzle that have been broken apart from one another and put the pieces back together following the clues. If you go here, it shows how it's taking the dragging of tiles around, pulling AL and ION together, lion and goose for a 2-part puzzle, King of the Jungle and Duck, Duck, Goose. If you want to play a practice puzzle, you can. Very simple method, very simple to play. And then there's a daily puzzle, and it's only about 2 weeks that it's been online. And it is changing a little bit over time. The way it's described is in flux, but it's a lot of fun. I play it every day now, and I recommend it to you. So if you want to, follow that link and join the fun. Now, back to gender bias in artificial intelligence. Researchers did some ChatGPT work asking for some resumes to be put together. The resumes typically were drawn up so that men scored higher than women. Their results of the request to form these resumes took men that were older as higher quality candidates and women were lower, no matter whether they were older or younger. And then they ran those back through a ChatGPT evaluator, and the people who got hired were predominantly the men, as based on the recommendations from this round trip ChatGPT. I imagine that the large language model was the reason for this. There is a gender bias in hiring already, has been for years, but to build it into the systems sounds counterproductive. And that seems to be what has been happening as we go forward. I strongly recommend you read that article and think about it.
This was a known problem with prior generations of neural network expert systems that used training data. It would absorb the biases that the humans had applied on the resumes in the training data, so that it learned who was being discriminated for and against. We looked at this resume, we hired this resume, we chucked this resume information. And so, yeah, unless you build DEI into the software intentionally, it will absorb the biases from the training data. And a large language model is picking up the biases from the discourse, and an intentionally built, trained system using your last 20 years of resumes is going to notice that 20 years ago you only hired men as programmers. Actually, it wasn't true. 20 years ago we were hiring more women than today. And it as I said, software is not neutral.
No, not at all. Okay. They are saying here in this article that Gen AI is the new plastic. And if you remember Mrs. Robinson's famous Dustin Hoffman conversation, I just want to say one word to you, just one word. Yes, sir? Are you listening? Yes, I am. Plastics. And here we are with plastics all over the ocean. The future is indeed plastic. And they're suggesting in this article that we ought to consider the thing we learned from The Graduate. Look back and think about AI as slop before we consider it to be the next great tool of our lives, because it may not pay off. And in similar vein, Microsoft Office has begun to offer vibe working, meaning you not only can code using ChatGPT, but you can also have it do all of your work generator. You can ask it to write reports. You can ask it to write your resume. You can ask it to build your spreadsheets. You can ask it to do the work that you're being paid to do. But it has been found less than perfect by a lot of people when they talk about spreadsheets in particular. It imagines certain kinds of combinations of formulas that just don't work. So I strongly would not recommend using Microsoft Office Vibe working capabilities. Not that any of us here probably use it at all. Bill?
Worse, it's, by the way, Microsoft as brand is Copilot, not ChatGPT, but right. Worse, you can't turn it off in Office 365's Word completely. Like Clippy, it will offer to create a summary of your document that you're writing, and if I'm writing it, do I really need you to summarize it for me? But it will offer to give you a summary, which means their AI is reading your document without automatically, and by using Office 365, you have granted them that permission and you can't turn it off. So if you're working on something that has confidentiality requirements, don't touch Office 365 or any AI, because the information might leak.
Might. Just might. Yes, indeed. Oh, dear. We are going through a great period of time. No question about it. Here's a simple item. I'm not going to even click through it. I'll leave that to you. OpenAI currently uses the same amount of electricity as 20 million people. That's 24 hours a day, 20 million people. OpenAI has that electricity equivalent. That's maybe not as bad as having the electricity equivalent of 1 billion people, but that's still pretty high. But if you are determined to learn more about artificial intelligence, IBM has written a local computer version of Granite 4.0, which is released under an open source license. So if you really want to play around with it and don't want to pay the upcharge for doing that for ChatGPT and OpenAI, they do charge money at the top level of their offering. You can try it with Granite, apparently. I don't intend to do it, but I thought I'd pass it along that you could. And if there are court cases against artificial intelligence firms, you're going to have payouts if they win, if the plaintiffs win. And of course, insurers will not want to pay those settlements when they get approved by a court. And on the other side, fears are growing that the AI bubble is going to burst sooner rather than later, a thing we've talked about in the past. And data centers for OpenAI are unreasonably expensive. Each of these items is seen from the lens of negativity. I'm sorry about that, but that's the way this is. The people whose articles I run across don't like artificial intelligence, and I don't tend to come across articles that are positive for that reason. The summary of this particular Science News article is that 90% of science has been sidelined. Vast amounts of valuable research, the data from it, has been trapped in labs or lost to time. Frontiers, a group that is involved in this study, aims to change that with FAIR data management, a groundbreaking AI-driven system that makes data sets reusable, verifiable, and scalable by uniting citation, compliance, peer review, and interactive visualization in one platform. FAIR empowers scientists to share their works responsibly and gain recognition. It sounds like a positive. I did come across one. I don't know much about the data involved, but there you go. This next one is what I thought to be a sad remark. This is from Mastodon again. This person says, as an art teacher, I was worried that AI would come up as an issue of why should I learn how to draw when I can use AI instead? On the other hand, the real issue is that my middle schoolers constantly believe that all art I show them is AI generated, digital art, photography, oil paintings from the Western canon. They say, a human couldn't do that. Being convinced that humans can't make great art is to this teacher a terrifying view of the world. How do you convince a child if that's their attitude? They don't understand AI any more than, I guess, I do. I don't love it. I don't like it. I don't understand it. But I do not think it is natural. The kids apparently think that it's natural. Scary. And an open letter from a librarian, we have concluded a Faustian pact with our science and technology generally, and with the computer in particular. So it seems to be, and in such a pact with Mephistopheles, both partners gain something. The devil gets the human soul, and the human partner services which he much desires and finds good. That's somewhere students are writing only a part of their research papers and getting ChatGPT or some other to do the rest. Educators at many levels, but particularly at the collegiate and graduate school levels, it is difficult on a professor. You have to understand what's being done by the student, and it isn't obvious. And it's hard to think what's going to happen with our graduate students coming up. Will they even begin to understand what they're talking about? Judging craft beers has become an AI thing. I don't know how. They can't drink, though it sounds like what they give for answers is inebriated. A group of judges were told to enter their data into an AI-based judging tool. And they had no preliminary warning of it, so they just had to do it. It surprised and angered those judges that thought they were just giving improvements. And then the AI matched the beer and reported back what the judge should have reported back. I can't get to the whole article here, but it sounds like a terrible situation. You're not really even getting human judges in beer judging contests anymore. Bob Primack.
Oh, you're still on the item about the craft beer judging. I'm
done with it.
There was another 404 from that same site under a later item, which is mine.
Okay.
That
watermark removed.
Yeah, that site seems to remove content from free availability on a timed basis. So it had the free version of that article has expired.
Aha. I must have seen it because I read more about it the first time. And that should go in as one of those warnings. I'll try to do that. We have another warning type that talks about paywalls, and this is a paywall apparently.
It's a form of paywall.
Yep. All right. Watermark removers flood the web, Bob?
I think we just skipped over the DEF CON AI slot presentation.
Oh, okay.
Let's do
Thank
that
you.
first.
Thank you. Cybersecurity is a big topic at all times in technology. We want things to be careful and researched and above reproach. Apparently, at a DEF CON, which is a security talk, there was a talk about a bug known as eBPF, apparently. And there was a 45 slide deck. And it may not have been done honestly. There were several bugs or problems in the eBPF that vanish one or van-ish. Yes, I guess that's how you would say it. It's one of those odd spellings of a username. In the DEF CON talk, none of the problems amounted to real security issues. Making things up. Maybe it was the author, maybe it was done by AI. I don't know significant details about this, but it sounds scary if researchers of significant issues like these cybersecurity vulnerabilities are not being honest in their presentations. You have to hope that people do their own work, just the way you have to hope that researchers in general, kids learning how to become researchers, if you're not going to be honest, don't get the work. It's not worth it. Do your best or don't do it. Okay, watermark removers, Bob.
Okay. What I have is the screen that you're sharing on the link.
Yes.
Yeah. Again, this was some of that paywall content, and I found an alternative source.
Oh, okay.
And
let me unshare then.
What you've got, what you've got is my link, which was a substitute for something that was blocked.
Oh, good.
So this has the same general content and references the now blocked article. And it's part of this cat and mouse game that happens between those who want to protect content using various forms of rights management, including watermarks, and those who find ways around the blocks on using the content. And so watermark removal is demonstrated in this article. And I think if we scroll down, there's actually an illustration of the removal of a watermark that said Sora. It's below that one. I think it's about the next image down. There's a pair of images in here. It may not be in this article. But anyway, one of my articles did show what happens. Normally, Sora will put a Sora watermark on every frame of everything you create. It'll create up to a 10-second TikTok video. And the watermark will appear in 1 or 2 spots on each frame. But these watermark removers, you just click on that watermark and it disappears. It's basically AI removing an AI watermark. And if I might share my screen, I want to share just how simple it is to find a service online that will do this. And what I'm going to do is just get my screen share. And I'll do this very quickly because we're coming to the end of the meeting. And let me get on to here it is. All you do is you just take your image or your video, cut and paste, upload it, and it goes from watermarked on the left to unwatermarked on the right. And especially if it's AI generated content to begin with, like Sora, you cannot tell the difference. You cannot tell that watermark was removed. There might be a little bit of blurring in the area where it's been removed. Very little else. So the arms race continues.
Oh, my goodness. I think we need to be ready for December 4th. I'm going to mention that now with about 5 minutes left in the meeting. December 4th is our next meeting. If you have any additions to make to this agenda, I would recommend that you consider adding them to next month's agenda. Contact any of us who are on the board list. Send it to me, send it to Jerry, send it to Dick, send it to Bob, send it to Dennis. We'll make sure that any recommendation that you in the outside, not here at the meeting, viewers want us to talk about, we will get that on next month's agenda. That agenda is built using a shared page that all the board members have access to, and we gradually build up short or long meeting based on all those submissions. So don't be shy about offering us some topic. Okay, any last minute questions or comments that need to be made? I don't see any hands coming up. I want to thank you all for joining into my fun and into the NatickFOSS November 6th meeting. I've had a good time. I hope you have too. And I look forward to seeing all of you next month. Don't hesitate. Reach out. We're here. We want to talk.
And everybody have a happy Thanksgiving.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And may the FOSS be with you.
Thank you, Jill. Thank you, Obi-Wan.
By the way, my Mint rollback has finished.
Just in time to say goodbye.
Well, what I did was I rolled